Welcome to Interstellar Cosmic Conversations, where we share experiences from our hearts to empower others. Welcome to Interstellar Cosmic Conversations. Today, our special guest is Sienna Lea. Sienna is an author, once a psychologist in the system, now a midwife augmenting soul alchemist. Sienna is the founder of Rise Multiversity and specializes in shadow synthesis to birth a new humane reality of care and embodied conscience. Welcome, Sienna.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you for this beautiful space that you have created and held for us all. I'm really happy to be here because it feels comfortable and loving, and it's holding a place of integrity and truth, and still being relaxed, where we're just like all down home with family, and that's a really great thing. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you. And see, that's what it's all about to me. You know, it's about we look, we know how intense it is out in the world. We see how brutal it is. We know what we're facing every day, the challenges we face. And for me, what has really been just going on for many years now is like my greater being is just screaming out to me, heal thyself, be whole, be complete. You're worthy. You came in whole. You know you're whole. Remember that. Know that. Own that. And that's what we're looking at. And that's why the shadow work is so important. Actually, bring your volume up. Patrick says he can't hear you, so that's good to know.
Okay. All right. I can do that.
Actually, I saw that. How did I see that? I normally can't see that.
How is that, Patrick? Is that any better? Hello, hello, hello.
She's kind of got that sexy voice, Patrick.
Good.
So before we get into like a lot of the deep questions we go into in shadow work, what I really wanted to talk about is how the shadow self is born, and also why is it repressed so much. Because it's almost like if you acknowledge that you have this shadow, there's something wrong with you. And that within itself creates all the shame and guilt and blame. And that still is something that needs to be healed. So I'd like to have you share that. And I know you wanted to share a video. And if you still want to share the video, I'm good with that.
You know, I think that this video will answer some of those questions, and it will certainly open up the conversation so that I think we can dive deeper and go further. So it would be my call to play the video, and then if you want to re-ask that question, or great. But I really think that this is the module 1 from the course, Shadow Synthesis Part 1, and it's cool. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. It's 20 minutes. Then we can open it up to a deeper dive. That would be my preference.
Okay, and that's awesome. And I also want to say this to everyone listening. When we talk about the shadow self, if anyone's here and they're not comfortable with that, if they don't like looking at that aspect of themselves, I want you to challenge what's being shared here. I want you to ask the questions that need to be asked to get you to either just say we're full of poop or it's making sense to you. And I'm going to share something personal. I'm always good at that. I can always use myself as I just throw myself under the bus all the time because it's so easy because I've been there. I feel like I've lived 1,000 times in one lifetime, but it's just they're all coming together. So let's do the video. And then after that, we'll dive in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because I've been meditating about this gathering with you, and what I get is that you are really aware that this is the lifetime to bust through into our sovereignty, into our freedom, into our hearts, into our love, and birth the new. And I couldn't agree with you more, that this is the time to reclaim our souls from all of the plots and plans that have compromised us. I do want to say that our, there has been a huge imposition. I mean, the shadow work I do is multidimensional, okay? It's not just shadow stuff or just inner baby stuff. We're dealing with the interference. We're dealing with the whole construct of cruelty and the contracts that we all make under duress through trauma-based mind control to sell out our soul life force in order to survive. We do it under extreme duress. We do it when we're unconscious, when we're babies. We don't know we've done it. So breaking out of this thing is a systemic dive into dismantling layer by layer our complicity with a system that is heartless and cruel and vampiric, and where we can only play victim or perpetrator. It is a slave system where our energies are being co-opted and being used to lock down this planet. And it's been that way for thousands of years. Shadow work is only a piece. I have never would say that shadow work is the be all and end all. However, as shut down, as traumatized as we become, we need to open these things back up. And we do this in community. We do this with the support of other like-minded souls that are awakening to the truth of our world on all levels. Why? Because this matrix is a matrix of imposed separation. The whole design was to break our hearts and to keep us separate from one another. And the medicine, the alchemy, is to bring us together, where we bear witness to what has happened with one another and with ourselves, where we're no longer living in shame and in fear of hiding the truth of our feelings, the truth of the imposition of the abuse, of the trauma, of what has been done, where we lay it all out with truth, so we can finally build trust and we can finally be transparent and embody the souls that we are. And at that point, at that 0 point, then we birth the new. But we cannot birth the new from our minds. We cannot birth the new simply from our desire. We have to embody ourselves in order to energetically create a field of love that is the new energy, that is the ancient energy, that is Gaia's energy, that is source-based energy. We need to return to our organic design, and this whole thing was engineered to shame us, to make us feel so worthless, so frightened that we can't connect anymore. And then we're getting more and more absorbed into this artificial reality, and it's coming on exponentially. There's a lot of awakening, a lot of growth, but also this agenda is moving forward at lightning speed with AI, with the 5G grid, with everything we're facing now. It's gigantic what we're up against. So places like this where we feel safe enough just to let our hair down, tell it like it is, look at this thing, share our own truth, is so vital. And at the end of the day, or the beginning of the day, you are absolutely right, Patricia. We can just be the love here. We can, but in order to do it, we have to call all the soul fragments back home. We have to, because we have been shattered and scattered across multi-dimensions over lifetimes. We carry the wounds of our ancestors. We've just intentionally been shattered so that these pieces can be harvested and used and locked down. The miracle of this lifetime is that we can call it all back home. That's part of the process that I do. Rise Multiversity has other mentors. We're partnering up because this has become an educational module, a number of educational courses where the first step is the shadow work, quite honestly. Then I'm getting feedback.
I'm like, you're going to do the whole interview by yourself in a minute.
No, I don't. All right. I just wanted to say,
you're so excited. You're so passionate.
Well, I just wanted to lay out, I wanted to create the field in a certain understanding.
Yeah. And what I'm saying, what's so critical about what you do, and I really want So somebody might say, well, gosh, you focus so much on the trauma. You focus so much on the shadow. If we don't face the trauma, if we don't face the shadow, we're stuck. We are stuck. We can't go anywhere until we own that.
Yeah, because the problem is that our unhealed core wounds and the beliefs that were created through that trauma are living in us. Our soul wants us to heal. We're here to complete and become whole. As you said so beautifully, that's what we're here to do. So we will project our shadow wounds out there and think other people are hurting us when it's our own projection. And then our egos come in, and our egos are constantly trying to save us, and they're not capable of saving us. We need to birth a new humanity that is heart-based, based in wholeness, and is not ego-driven. The ego is the operating system of the artificial construct. Shadow work is really having a deep soul truth look at your ego and helping the ego to get the you-know-what out of the way, so that we can live as compassionate, forgiving, creative, embodied, dynamic, action-based solutionaries. If we have got all of this pain, we're jostling just to keep it suppressed. And that's a full-time job for our ego. We're really not doing anything else. And most of us aren't doing. And then they are giving us all of this stuff to take. They're saying, okay, because you can't get your needs met if you are walled off, if you are feeling so bad about yourself, if you're suppressing all of your shadow wounds, you're not here. We have a cover personality that's here that cannot make real connections. So we're all people disconnected, perpetrating the same situation. That's the problem. The healing comes from getting our needs met. They know this. We're all shut down behind these big walls of separation, and then they're feeding us all this artificial crap, saying, oh, here, buy this. This will make you feel good. And we're becoming instant gratification freaks, just trying to shove down our pain. Oh, I'll try that. But it's a black hole. We can't ever be satiated in the state we're in. So it's a cleansing. Okay, it's a coming clean. It's a self-honesty that births the new possibility that is so on offer. This Gaia is in correction. She is brilliantly intelligent. She is moving into a different dimension. She wants her children to come with her into this dimension, this transcendent of duality. And we can only do this when we come clean, when we are not living a lie. The entire system of the matrix is a lie. We live a lie in order to be good boys and girls and go along with it, right? Well, you cannot connect to the planet, to source, or your own organic soul if you're living a lie. So whether it's your lifetime to face your living a lie or not, bless you. We're good with it, Yes, the whole culture is geared to avoid shadow. Societies, institutions, families, our bandwidth of emotional honesty is like this compared to what we're capable of. Everybody stays with the status quo, energetically acceptable behavior, because we're suppressing all of this wounding that is frightening, that is scary, and that is painful. But you know what? It's so easy to get through now in this new energetic. And it's beautiful to feel whatever's real. Even if you're so angry you could scream, even if the tears are pouring out of you like Vesuvius, it feels good to be you. And that's the opportunity we want to create, a safe place where, that's held with responsibility, where people can just do that work. And is it some technique that anybody knows, including Sienna Lea? Yeah, I've learned a bazillion techniques, but you know what? You know how to get through. You know what my biggest mantra is? Get out of the way, Sienna. I can lay it out, and then I get out of the way and I hold the field. And people just get a chance to follow their own higher self, because your own higher self orchestrates your healing. It's organic, right? What's been happening to you in the last few years? I mean, you have blossomed into a being that says, you know what? And you've had severe abuse in your childhood. I mean, I wouldn't reveal the details. You've gone through hell, and with your family and many, many things. You know, this hasn't been just a walk in the park for you, Patricia. At some point you went, you know what? I can move beyond all of this because I'm the love and I'm going to be the love. And you are. You know, you're holding this space, you're creating interview after interview, you're blossoming because you took that radical self-responsibility and you said, I'm not going to be part of the problem anymore. So it can be done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, you know, I think all of us at some point, if we go back, if we look backwards, even though it's not about going in the past in a way that like, oh, we're stuck in the past, but it's about self-reflection, right? And I could go back to my earliest years and go, you know, I knew I was here for something great. And everything around me said, you're a lowlife, you're scum, you're living at a poverty level. And then sometimes you're living as a millionaire, because I was so torn. I was living so much. My childhood was so diverse because I was around the elite that were feeding off of me and abusing me. But then I was also sometimes in a ghetto somewhere. And my life was just completely chaotic and confusing. But everything about me was always like, you're not a victim. You're here for a purpose. And every opportunity that I had to be better, to do better, to understand myself, I took it. And it was just that I think I came in so aware that I was such a threat that I had to just go through massive abuse to try to get me so disconnected and not reconnect. But I was so determined. My greater being was so determined that it happened. And so when people are facing these challenges that seem like this is too much to even share with someone because it sounds so bizarre, it's not even believable. Know that you came in so empowered, so aware that you had to be taken down to a certain level. And it's not paranoia, it's just a fact.
No, it's the archons and the Orion, the Dracos and the reptiles are feeding off of the fact that they've engineered us into a culture where we won't own the contents of our unconscious. All of that negative energy, they call it hooch, the shamans here in the rainforest call hooch. It's a palpable energy. And these guys need us at a lower density. They need the negative emotion and the unconscious emotion to live off of. And so that's how it's been engineered. And now, I mean, their weapons are getting pretty out there. But it has been engineered, and they are, you know, and they're getting better and better at profiling us around our purpose. But it doesn't friggin' matter, because the truth is our love is more powerful than anything they have. And some of them will stay and learn from us. I've been actually working with a band of these guys that are middle management, and they want to honor the human genome. They don't want to be these predators anymore, but they, you know, they don't have the feelings. They don't have the human genome. We've been GMO'd by these alien races. So part of us is Draco, but we can integrate this. I mean, Anais actually has a really cool video on how to integrate your reptilian DNA, and certainly shadow work is a part of that integration. So we go, oh, there's a part of us that's really dark. Yeah, there is. There's a part of us that's heartless, that's all about ourselves, that takes and does not give. And it's not even our human part. So how do we get through it? We say yes to everything. We say yes to the darkness within us because it didn't know any better. Every part of us, has done the best it can. So instead of being shamed and hiding and keep it in the unconscious where it's food for them, we bring it all home. You know, if it's a child that is a real problem child, instead of putting it out in the orphanage in the unconscious, we go, you know what? I need to hear you now. I need to feel you now. I need to find the love within me and reconnect with the love that is inherent in the universe available so we can all heal. And this is the process. And then we get fully charged. We need enough charge to break our slave bonds with these alliances. I mean, I know people, and Anais one of them. You know, she was here with a weapon the other night. She said, "Oh yeah, well, it took me 3 minutes. You know, went back to my heart. I pictured a rose. I bumped the energy off. They can't touch her. But that's only because she has so embodied herself. It's so simple, Patricia. You know this. It's so simple. She has so embodied the love and regenerated her system and gotten strong enough that they cannot touch us. This is the thing they don't want us to know. This is the thing they don't want us to come out of separation and support in one another.
So let's do this, because I feel like this is so relevant right now. Let's share the video about what created our shadow self. And everyone, it's 20 minutes, and I know that's lengthy, but everything that we're doing is so relevant, so important to healing, to empowerment. I'm not focused on trauma to dwell on trauma. I'm focused on it so we can be empowered. And so we have to know where the shadow self was created. And we've blocked it out a lot. We've repressed it and blocked it out. So it's really good to just take the time to listen and really hear, what got us in this situation. Yeah.
This is the introduction.
You might want to turn your volume up because you're so sultry on your video. It's going to have to be louder.
Well, you see if it's loud enough. Let me know. Hit me in the chat box and I'll adjust it. I think this is going to be okay the way it is, to be honest.
Okay. All right. And if you can't turn your video off, can you? Because it wouldn't share your screen.
That won't be necessary. Hang on.
Patrick is saying the sounds good. Yeah, but she's got this very sultry voice in the video, so make sure
No, it should be fine. It should be fine. But let me know if it's not. Just tell me and we'll adjust it. The deaf people. Okay, Patrick. All right, share screen. Here we go, and here we go.
What is shadow?
All right, hang on. Let me start that again. Whoop. Okay.
Hola, this is Sienna Lea, and this is session 1. What is shadow? Your shadows are your dark side, a composite of all you keep hidden from owning within yourself. The journey of shadow synthesis is the voyage of soul reclamation, discovering then reintegrating the dissociated life force and charge hidden in shadow. Your shadow selves house all the aspects of you that are sabotaging you from creating the authentic, soul-embodied existence that is your birthright. Your shadows contain your less than pristine qualities, your unprocessed pain, trauma, loss, and abandonments hidden in your unconscious. Also, your shadow conceals and contains hidden hatred, jealousy, depression, hopelessness, low self-esteem, and all the false beliefs and scarred character flaws such as narcissistic tendencies, a self-serving nature, cruelty, and heartlessness. In this dualistic realm, we all carry light and dark. Victim and predator traits are passed down through your ancestors. Whatever holds you back from being the loving, creative, joyful, constructive person you really are capable of being, staying present, connecting, sharing, giving, receiving, speaking, and embodying your unique truth, all of that is your shadow. And yes, everyone has shadows. This is the nature of this 3D dualistic construct. Wherever there's light, there must be equal darkness. It is the natural law of this dimension. It is nothing to continue beating yourself up about. It is a natural part of every human psyche. Hiding from your shadow will often keep you uncertain about yourself, restless, nervous, and uncomfortable to live in your own skin. Keeping your shadows hidden is a full-time job you don't even know you have. Doing the tap dance to circumvent your shadows is disempowering and makes you tense and feels painful to live with. Something in me just does not feel right. We often feel, but do not really know why or what it is. Many of us just accept discomfort as normal. It's not. It can be shifted, and shadow synthesis is a good place to expand your understanding, build trust, and begin making that shift. There are counselors who just tell you to repeat the phrase, "I am enough," and poof, it'll all go away. Bullocks to that. We have parts in us that are not in integrity with our hearts, and it all needs to come to light so that it does not control us from our shadows any longer. It is not advisable to overjump your shadow. When you lovingly come to know your shadows, only then can they heal and integrate back into your core self. But you are conditioned to hide your shadows from yourself and others at all costs. It is not just darkness you keep hidden. It is also potential energies, positive qualities, and talents that have been taboo to reveal. If I'm too talented, Mommy will feel bad as she gave up her talents to raise me, etc., etc., etc. Shadow synthesis opens the gates for you to embody the really great parts of yourself that bring you bliss when integrated. Your shadow selves bury your brilliance, dampen your passion, freeze your sexuality, block your psychic ability, and teach you to hide from success by withholding your talents and your creative genius. Our culture demands we stay small in many, many ways. As you are here now, I know that you're done with that, and that you just need to find the way through to the life and self you have the divine inheritance to embody now. As you are here now, I know that you're done with all that, and just need to find the way through to the life and self you have the divine inheritance to embody now. Congratulations again for having the bravery to face your unknown shadowlands. Why am I scared of my shadow? We've been taught to be scared of the dark. It's dangerous to be avoided at all costs. The truth is just the opposite. Your shadow is the dark, fecund soil in which you need to plant the seeds for your metamorphosis. It is your storehouse of vast potentials held in unprocessed emotion, dissociated breakaway personalities, contracts with ancestors, parents, authorities, beliefs, and unresolved narratives from what we call past life memory, entities, interference that interspose, interblend, melding with those breakaway personalities. It's all carried along inside of you, and all of this does not serve you any longer. Owning your shadow is a direct path to reclaiming tremendous lost potential charge. Charge gives your creations potency. No charge makes you impotent to create what is in your soul and your heart to make real. Shadow Synthesis 1 is designed to give you the broad stroke understanding of what is in the shadow lens you carry and all people have within themselves. Shadow Synthesis 1 will chart the course you can now embark upon to realize your true heartfelt intentions. our understanding of shadow has been distorted. Our concepts about our psyches have been influenced and distorted by key figures in the field of psychology. One in particular warped the understanding of what lurks within us. Sigmund Freud's ideas have influenced many of our institutions that deal with mental health. It is of value to know our history so that we can set ourselves free consciously. Freud's theory of our unconscious is that we all have primitive urges called libido deep inside us. Here Freud reflected the patriarchal notion that we have a raging beast within that must be tamed. This idea was very popular and cast various and vast areas of our potential into condemnation. Dark motivations lurking in our unconscious were seen as our natural state and something that needed policing. This theory led to the belief that we had to be controlled, otherwise the monstrous dark urges that were our human psyche's desires would spiral out of control. This belief has dominated modern psychology until recently in the conservative halls of the learned doctors. It was used by the dominator culture to reinforce the belief that we need government, that we must have religion, that we can't live without parents, authorities, external monitors for our behavior. It fostered enormous generational fear. This model passed as truth for a long time. It demonized the deepest parts of our psyches to keep us frightened of our own selves. And it enforced the patriarchal notion that our basic urges are bad, and we are bad if we allow them expression. It fostered the impulse to hide our true urges, impulses, and desires, including our sexuality, sensuality, emotions, and even our psychic capacities, and our ability to be multidimensional, to connect to Source, to our mother planet, without a middleman. It was the psychological meme that reflected back to the days of the witch hunts. But now that witch and her hunters were inside of us, mind controlling us from within. The superego was born, the inner patriarchal monitor who polices us inside our own minds with constant judgment, pushing with demands for perfection and superiority. This was not anything new, actually. It had been around long before Freud, justifying the genocide of hundreds of thousands of women and demonizing all things feminine, including our mother planet. It started way before Freud. The Holocaust against women and all things feminine lasted 1,000 years, when thousands of women were tortured and murdered if they demonstrated psychic or healing gifts. Any of these divine inheritances and magical abilities that originate from these forbidden targeted potentials, such as the ability to speak to animals or connect with spiritual forces inherent in the universe, were demonized and targeted. From the Inquisition up to the modern era of psychology and into the current encroaching police state, now growing exponentially across a globe spiraling into chaos. We have been and continue to be traumatized, made to be terrified of reclaiming our authentic energies or bringing any real healing or integration through voyaging into our forbidden shadow selves. The truth about our shadow. These distorted ideas then became legitimized through Sigmund Freud and his followers. Thankfully, these beliefs were reframed through the work of Carl Jung. Carl Jung, a contemporary psychiatrist of Sigmund Freud, posited a totally different view of the human psyche. He believed that we were inherently not primitive animals, barely out of the jungle, needing to obey authority for our salvation, but rather spiritual beings with a divine spark at the core of ourselves. Our task was to birth the self and rekindle our soul's coherent core, a fractal essence of heart and transcendent light, our infinite nature, what connects us to the omniverse. Our task is not to repress our natural desires indefinitely, but rather to expand that core self by reclaiming parts of ourselves, purifying the distortion, casting away what no longer serves, and voyaging into the shadowland.
Still with me? Not sure what happened. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It's to reclaim fractal charge lost in our personal and collective unconscious. Shadow synthesis is in alignment with the vision of Carl Jung. Jung stated before his death that as a man, he with his mind had charted a very clear map of the personal and collective unconscious.
Get a little interference.
The actual experiential energetic process of birthing a divinely sparked self, he did not truly have to give humanity other than through lengthy analysis of dreams that sometimes lasted 10 years. Life itself gives us now organically the process of individuation, to become whole and birth a self that is steered by this divine spark within us. Reclaiming our shadows holds the promise of rebirth, regeneration, and a future of shared connection to finally satiate our souls by being able to give and receive love and act out of authentic, embodied presence. The self requires us to become powerful while doing no harm, finding what sovereignty and freedom are for each of us and making it real. Shadow synthesis comes from this line of wisdom brought forward by many before me. I am so deeply grateful to all of them who open themselves bravely to ridicule and strife, venturing ever onwards, motivated by divine inspiration. They have cut this trail before us so that we can now birth this much needed next step for humanity within each one of us. Our culture continues to give our shadows a bum rap. Through hundreds of years of covert cruelty, through social manipulation and conditioning, we have come to fear what lurks in the deep recesses of our unconscious. The contracts we have made under duress are all clearly hidden in our shadowlands. No wonder the powers that be make it taboo to even venture there. Cultural and social contracts and agreements have been unconsciously layered into our unconscious, created to keep us tied in dutiful servitude to a system that does not have our best interests at heart. We have learned to obey and turn a blind eye or suffer the consequences. We live in a culture of suppression based on these collective fears. We have learned too often to put a false and distorted mask on in endless pursuit of keeping ourselves safe, or the misguided attempt to receive love, or become wealthy, or maintain our reputation in society. This fear-based epidemic of herd mentality that seeks sameness at all cost still largely rules. We were often punished if we did not obey these silent agreements to not show our true feelings, our truth, our real needs, our urges, our brilliance, our imagination, or any authentic embodied energies. This era is coming to an end. Now the veneer of civility is crumbling before our eyes. Humanity's shadow is surfacing. It is unstoppable. Now we are called to break the taboo against embodying who we truly were born to be. Now we are called home to birth a self that is humane, has the capacity to remain centered, non-reactive, sane. Now we need to reclaim our lost, heartfelt parts and take constructive, balanced, zero-point action to build the world we wish to co-create and live within. Shadow projection. Our only other choice is to go on as we have been for hundreds of years, acting out the contents of our unowned unconscious, projecting those shadows outside of ourselves onto others. Our souls propel us to give expression to all incomplete aspects of ourselves, one way or the other. Our psyches, souls, have one directive: to complete what we came here to do. Self-mastery. Even though we may have no clue what that is, our soul knows and push us to resolve anything unfinished that is holding up our shadow integration process. If out of fear and social conditioning we do not feel safe enough to do so, we project those contents of ourselves onto others automatically and unconsciously. Did you realize that your soul creates situations and circumstances to put you exactly in the mere reflection of what you need to face and resolve? Sadly, we rarely recognize these synchronicities and circumstances as opportunities to resolve unfinished narratives. Instead, we take them at face value. As you commit to engage in your own shadow synthesis, you will learn how to identify these circumstances when they surface and find the means within yourself to own that projection and to heal.
Okay.
I think that was absolutely amazing. I loved it.
I haven't seen it in a while. I kind of enjoyed it myself, to be honest.
There was so much that resonated with me, and it was in so many different points that were being made, were bringing me back to my own personal experiences.
Do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, I do. And one of the things but before I do, yeah, I think so too, Patrick. Thank you. That was awesome. The repression of our shadow. We saw how the shadow self is born, and it talks about the repression. So what I would like to ask you to talk about right now, for anyone that heard that and will hear that when it goes on the internet, what do you say to people who want to deny their shadow?
See ya. Great. It's not going to get easier in this dimension. And the people there's a choice, right? We're at a crossroads. And there's the organic timeline of Gaia Sophia, or there is the timelines that are going to be based on the repetition of unresolved narrative. The people that don't get into more of a 5D reality, or integrated, whole, heart-based reality, are going to be in for a hell of a ride. However, would I say that? No. I mean, I really try to stay Gaia connected and source connected, and I never know how I'm going to react to anyone, because beyond my personality and ego, a migrator being maybe called to really confront someone on that. But usually if someone is really, well, for example, I was at a spiritual community recently where I got a wonderful reception in, I think, 3 out of the 4 presentations that I gave. But one of them, 4 women ran out of the room. They looked at this very thing you just watched like this, like, and they went, I feel really bad. And it was like a virus that spread around the room. And then the other one said, me too. He said, I don't think I want to be here. And they literally ran in a herd out of the room. And the other 5 that were there went, don't worry about it, Sienna. That's, but this was a spiritual community that, in all honesty, wasn't really addressing shadow. They were love and lighters. They were happy in that zone. And this terrified them. It started to, surface shadows. They wanted nothing to do with it. So everyone has to make their own choice, Patricia. I mean, I'm not evangelistic on this. Like, you must own your shadow or you will be doomed. Even though I may personally know that that's probably true, you won't be doomed. Everyone returns home eventually, okay? It's just, do you want the quick way, or do you want the long, arduous way where, you're going to just have to be in the shit until you wake up, maybe 10 lifetimes from now? It's in this way we have free will. I don't really think we have free will in the matrix of cruelty. It's been engineered. We're slaves. We don't have free will here, but we do have the free will to decide whether we're going to do this work or whether we're not going to do this work. So what are you going to do? This is not, I know it takes a certain amount of, bubbling up and being grounded and not taking in that energy and standing firm. It's a good spiritual exercise for me to bring this work out, because you're right. A lot of people are going to just attack you, make you bad and wrong. Those women break them in. This is really horrible. And I don't know how you got away with presenting this here, but this is really bad and I need to go now. Yeah. So I know.
Well, and, there's been so many diagnosis of ourselves in the system. So if I were to share my shadow self with someone, they would try to label me a certain type of personality, or based on my experiences and why I reacted or responded a certain way, rather than looking at the fact that each and every one of us have this in us. So I want to share something that's, I can share this because it was a session that I recently had. We weren't doing shadow work, but it came up and we had the most amazing laugh. I'm not going to have to reveal the person's name or anything like that, but this is just such a great example because this was a woman that is almost 70 years old and heard me sharing through my interviews and said, for the first time in my whole life, I finally felt safe and at home to talk with someone that she had never shared any of this with anyone. And I felt really just so grateful that I had, created a space where she felt like this. And when we were talking, we just had the most amazing laugh at something that most people couldn't laugh at because they would be so horrified by it. And we both experienced some, heavy duty trauma in our childhoods. And she shared something about how abusive her mother was. And I guess she had a sister that was a little, maybe more spunky or spiteful possibly than she was at that particular time. And her mom was demanding a steak for dinner. So their sister said, sure, Mom. And she just dragged the steak back and forth across the floor all the way to the frying pan. Now, I know I'm laughing and people are going to be like, what the hell? She's laughing. This is crazy. The same woman that was abusing her had her shadow self, had her dark aspect, her light. And so did this other being, because she tapped into something. It wasn't what the mother created. It was something that she tapped into that was within herself. You can't say someone made me do something. We either have the ability or we don't. And we all do, if we're honest. And when she shared that, she thought I was going to have a reaction like, this is, effed up. And I was like, no, not really, because I remember one time I was like, I didn't really want to kill my mom, but I kind of wanted to give her some diarrhea. And so we just have to acknowledge this. I mean, there are things in us that are there. We can judge ourselves harshly for it if that's what we want to do, or we can really dive into who we are and acknowledge that and heal all these things that have happened to us and all these different lifetimes that we've, participated in, and become whole and healthy and not even have to go there anymore. But be able to look at it without judgment and just embrace that part of us. I mean, even as a healed person, you still have the ability to get pissed off and do some things that are, it's going to happen. Honestly, we can't be 100% healed here, because we're going to face things every day. We're always in that. When we're completed, when we have reached completion, 0 point, then we're done.
Right on.
Yeah.
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 I'm getting some feedback.
Oh, sorry. Let me mute my mic.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I'm not sure. Something came and went there, but I don't know what I was going to say. Yeah. No, it's the thing about we're not healed. I mean, this is something I wrestle with because actually in the process of doing shadow synthesis in these groups, I go through my next level of healing with the people I'm working with. I can still hold space. I can still be present for others. But I've learned finally that I can be real. I can cry. I can own things. I can do process work. I can be transparent. As a matter of fact, it works so much better that way. I don't have to show up as the big authority that knows everything, that is completely healed. No, I'm another person going through this. And the more within this group context, in each session, there's a theme, and there are parts of all the people's unconscious that comes up, and there's parts of mine that come up. So that's part of what I've had to come to terms with, and it's so much better than being in fear and then having my ego run the thing, because I never know. I mean, I've been doing this for like 40 years, but I never know what's going to come up. I have to be really present. And to be really present, I have to be vulnerable. I have to be present with my own emotional body, with my own self. I'm just another person. So I couldn't agree with you more. And this is what's so beautiful about the space you're holding here in Interstellar Conversations. That to me is the presence. Let's be real here, which is a healing in itself.
And I so agree with that. There was a time when I kept judging myself and saying, how can I do the things that I feel I'm supposed to do? Because I feel like I have so much more to do with myself. And I was having a session and I said, I don't want you to think this session is just about your healing. This is about our healing, because what we're doing together is healing me too. And it was so real and honest. And I am, some people will say, why would you want to be transparent? Why would you want to have the most deepest, darkest things about yourself revealed? And for me, it's kind of like, well, because it's already known. It's already out there. When the Logos was put out and everything was created in this universe, it was already spoken into being. And free will exists on certain levels and not on other levels. And we don't have to go into that, but it is what it is. And there are observers, and they know it all. And we're observers of our own situations and our own life experiences. So the only person I'm hiding from is myself. Mm-hmm. Right?
And the person that is holding us in this prison is ultimately ourselves, even though we've had a lot of help. But ultimately, we are trained to do it to ourselves, to sabotage ourselves, to judge ourselves, to put ourselves down, to suppress ourselves, to not speak our truth. We become our own jailers, and then they can go on to the next one because they're done. So, just being able to bear witness, and I mean, I don't like the confessional, but speak the truth about how I am. The truth does set us free. It does. If you can go, I have this huge judgment right now about me, or this happened in my life. I've never been able to share with anybody. I mean, I hear this a lot. I have no one to share what's real with me. This is the construct of separation. That's what we're engineered, that it's so horrific what's inside of us. We dare not reveal it. That's how they got us.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something that really hit me hard. I'm going to put someone on the spot that is attending this event because I saw something. Anybody that's my friend on Facebook, I've been not doing a whole lot in Messenger, and I haven't been doing a whole lot on Facebook just because I've had to take some time to myself. But I've seen some things that have come in. I just haven't commented yet, but I will. But someone shared something that was really relevant, and you kind of have touched on some things about separation. One of the things that I have to take ownership for myself, and I do get that we have to have healthy boundaries, but I also realize that there's some stuff in me that needs to be resolved that I haven't faced. And it's a lot of things with my siblings. Because I was put in a role to be a mother figure to them. And it was very hard because I was dealing with so much trauma in my childhood and having to be their parent too. And then that, coming up into our adulthood, I was still carrying that role, living that role. And some of my siblings will not do shadow work. Some of them want to just stay, completely deny that and stay embedded in religion. And then some want to just stay so focused on the dark side alone that there's just no healthy balance. And for me, sometimes it feels so overwhelming, I just can't do it. Like, I feel like I just can't do this. But Christine Rose, if you're on here, I saw something that you shared that I'm going to add to my timeline probably tomorrow, and something you shared about your relationship with your family that I thought was so relevant to this conversation today. And if you're willing to, I would love to make you a panelist and let you talk with Sienna about this, because I think you hit something that was so amazing about the way you're handling your relationships with your family members and the trauma that you experienced. Yay, she raised her hand. Okay. Let me move you to panelist. Promote to panelist. There we go.
So she's muted still.
I think she's going to unmute herself, and I'm going to mute myself. So
sorry, here I am. Okay. So I heard you say you saw something. I'm sorry, this has kind of got some, I keep it covered when I'm not using it. So you saw the post that I put up about having Christmas dinner with my family, and I also shared that in that conversation with you, Patricia, but what was the question? Like, what do you want me to say?
Well, I felt what you shared was very impressive about how you've been able to, instead of running from family members where you had trauma, that you've been able to come in from you just share. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you
okay. Okay. So, and I have done all of those things. So, I have run from my family. I have secluded myself from my family. I had to, during a period when I was doing a lot of self-work, stay away from members of my family in order for me to get in touch with my anger, in order for me to get in touch with the truth of my feelings. I couldn't in one breath lock myself in a room and deal with my issues with them, and in another breath go and hug them and say I love you and and pretend everything's just fine. So, I mean, you know, I did go through phases in my relationships with my family, and I probably always will, but I actually do feel like I am in a place where I'm not afraid of anyone in my family or of anything, in fact, because I feel like I have the tools now to have a much greater awareness of everything and how it was all constructed, of all the programming and the conditioning and the stories and the role playing and the archetypes and the patterns, the generational stuff, all of that. I've been able to really look at it and see it, and I can watch it play out and not be drawn into it when I'm like, and this is funny because, Patricia, since I wrote that about Christmas, this week, like a few days ago, there was another thing that came up, which of course I handled beautifully with ease because I'm so confident now in not getting drawn into this stuff that now it's almost like it's a choice whether I even want to present a bit of a different perspective. From my perspective, from my awareness, I can now, if I choose to, try to tell my mother or my sister something from a different perspective so that they might be able to sort of see things from a little distance, from that little space that, you know, if we allow ourselves to take a breath, take a space, step back, let go of all the conditioning and let go of all the grasping of I need to be right, I need to be seen, I need to be heard, I need to be felt, and just sort of step back a bit and try to see another person's perspective, or try to do like a history review and say, maybe it wasn't always so easy for my mother, maybe it wasn't always so easy for my sister, maybe they had things that made them operate a certain way when they were my age, and you know, now I'm judging them now for that. And so if we can see things from like a historical perspective, and really it's hard to do when you're still in the fight, when you're still in the friction, when you're still in the belief systems and the mind games and all of that stuff. But it's so easy when you're on the other side of it to look at it all and think, yeah, this is exactly why this all works and why my sister's still doing that and why it's carrying on with her kids. And you know, but at the end of the day, I guess what we're getting to, and what I wrote in that post was about, and what Sienna's been talking about. Hi, Sienna. We don't know each other, but I've enjoyed this presentation. What I'm getting at is that there is hope for everybody, even the people that have had the worst scenarios with their families, that have had the most, you know, horrific times in their lives trying to deal with people, and they don't want to have any part of them anymore. They don't want to go to family dinners. They don't want to do, you know, get-togethers and stuff, and it brings up a lot of emotion. Or they're doing it anyway, inauthentically, and they're doing it because they should, because they have to, and they're sort of like can't wait to just go home. And we don't have to feel these ways anymore if we do the self-work. If we look at the shadow, if we look at the process, if we allow ourselves to feel our feelings, we allow ourselves the time, the effort, the space, the energy to really just do it for ourselves, collect ourselves, feel how we, you know, really feel, and don't judge ourselves in the process. Yeah, I dragged somebody's steak across the floor. Yeah, I wanted somebody to have diarrhea because they drove me crazy and they deserved it. You know, whatever. We can say that happened. You know, I felt that way. I did that thing. I wanted to do that thing. You know, there's been miles and miles of bullshit between me and my sister, or me and my mother, or whatever. And I take accountability for my part in it, because I, you know, at that time was going through these things. At that time was being treated this way. At that time, I didn't know better. And now we have the ability to really just self-honor, self-love and self-honor, and take a look at all of the things, and don't hold judgment for ourselves in the process. Don't like judge ourselves for what we didn't know, you know? And then if we can do that, if we can do this work, we can, I don't know, take this program or, you know, go through the process of self-honoring, we can get to a space where it's possible that now there's no friction involved at family dinners. There's no, you know, agenda at play. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to say anything. I can just be present and show up with my own self-awareness, my own self-love, understanding everything that's gone on. And now we can really get to the place of having like true forgiveness of ourselves and of others. And forgiveness is not even the goal. Forgiveness is not even the goal of it all. It's a byproduct of it. Because when we're on the other side of it and that friction doesn't exist and we just really truly love each other and have compassion for all that's happened and occurred, forgiveness is just kind of like a given. It can be anyway. In my experience, it has been. So I don't know if maybe if I share the story that just happened this week, it might. I don't know if it'll help or if I'm just going on about it here.
Well, yeah, you're free to share. I want to say add to what you're saying. When we forgive, for me, what I've come to, this is my feeling, so I don't want to just assume that everyone would feel this way. But for me, if I had to forgive, it means I'm creating a judgment. So it's almost like it's not even forgiveness. It's almost like just an acknowledgement of everyone's journey and why they made the choices that they made. So I keep thinking, do I really want to forgive? Because I've had the most amazing relationship with my mother right at the end of her life. I mean, like in the last hours of her life. And then since she transitioned, through closure exercises that I've done with her, and she's presented herself to me, and it's been just the awareness, the amount of love and gratitude that we have for one another is so clear. There was never anything to forgive.
Yeah.
It was just acknowledgement.
Yes. Yes, that's a good way to put it, actually. It's about coming to a place where we acknowledge everything and don't have judgment about it, and feel compassion for ourselves and give ourselves that self-honor and that self-love that maybe was missing in the relationship. And when we can give it to ourselves, it just as a byproduct, we're able to give it to others. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Sienna, do you have anything you would like to share?
Well, that was just so beautifully said. You're just a living example of someone who's coming back into her heart, into her wholeness, and being present beyond all of the wounding. And that is where we all need to get to. Oh, I can't say where we all need to get to, but that's liberation, isn't it? And because it's all the wounding is triggering the ego to try to make it right, to jostle for this or for that, or now I'm important, or now I'm this, or now. I mean, most of people are still in ego, and the ego is full of all these overlaid distortions for all the core wounds and the traumas. And it keeps people in polarization, doesn't it? I mean, this is going on all over the world. And of course, it also is being targeted, because this is also what they feed on: war, conflict, and polarization. And so it can be so frustrating to see people getting manipulated in that way and not getting the point. I mean, to me, the two of you are really getting to the point of letting it all go, the point of moving beyond all of the wounding into the new reality of wholeness. That's what you're both modeling and sharing. So really, I don't have much to say other than bravo. Beautiful.
Well, you know that for anyone that's here that doesn't know this, I did, when I first started INNERStellar, one of my first interviews was with Sienna. And the reason that I'm here, I've had 3 mentors that have been consistent in my life. One is Sienna, another one is George Kavasilis, and another is Emma Stowe. Every one of them are heart-based and about really getting into what's going on and how to be empowered. And so that's, since 2014, this has been my journey into self-healing and becoming whole and complete, and then holding a space for others. And so this is my passion and my purpose at this point. So thank you, Sienna. And I'll get into some things later. I don't want to do it yet because I do want to let others share. And then Patrick, Christine, you're definitely free to share your experience, but I want to ask Patrick one thing, if he's willing to share, because he did say when you were sharing about your family experience that really hit him. And okay, come on, let's do it. Patrick, let me bring you on. I'm excited. Give me a minute because I'm slow. Patrick. All right, here we go. Get out of that rabbit hole. I'm teasing you. All right, I'm on mute. And Patrick, you need to unmute your mic. Or I can unmute it for you. Oh, you got it. Okay.
He may need to go to the audio settings by the microphone and make sure that his mic is being recognized by Zoom if he cannot speak. That it's an arrow that you click next to your mic, and that brings up audio options. You go there, and then you can do a test and and pick which speaker and which mic you're actually using. Sometimes it gets confused. If that helps you, Patrick, if you're not able to be heard. I mean, you type in the chat box if you're having issues. We might be able to help you. Okay, AI, we love you, and we can let Patrick speak. It's all right. We're not abandoning you. It's okay. This happens, Patrick. It happens. Do you see where the audio options are there? Have you found that? Oh, there you go. Perfect. We see you. Can we hear you? We still can't hear you. Is your microphone turned up? If you click on the arrow next to the mic icon on the lower left-hand corner, to go to audio options.
So funny. I've been over here talking away with my microphone muted.
Oh, no.
You see where it says select a microphone?
Now, sometimes you actually have to leave the room and come back in. That's a last resort. Or sometimes you have to restart your computer for it to recognize, but that's usually not the case. Usually just by clicking on it, you get right on.
I really want Patrick to be able to speak because he's just coming out and talking now. So I really want him to be able to do this. Is your webcam also your, are you on a laptop or a desktop? Laptop. So you don't have an external microphone. It's strictly through your webcam. So under your select a microphone, it should be your, whatever your laptop webcam is. And if you want to go out and come back in and try that and see if that works, we'll wait for you.
Also, you can check on your control panel. Sometimes your volume is just turned way down. Also, you need to check your volume. Sometimes your control panel is not recognizing. If you're using a mic at times or different devices, sometimes it doesn't recognize.
We could why don't we can let Christine share about her family experience that she recently had, Patrick, and then let you go check your settings and come back. But we're not going to let you off the hook if we can help it. All right.
Okay. Okay, so a couple of days ago, my niece put up a post on Facebook, and I'll just paraphrase, but it was one of those boxes where you can write in the box, and it said, something along the lines of that the only person that she has in her life that she can count on is her Nana, which is my mother. And in the comments, she had written something about how Nana's been more of a mother to her than her own mother was, and has been there for her, and that their relationship is really special to her, something along these lines. And I read that, and this is what I'm talking about when it comes to making a decision, if you want to engage with it or not. I didn't have to say anything at all. I could just let it go. But something in me felt kind of bad for my sister, her mother. If she had seen that, it would probably break her heart, even though their relationship is not the greatest. Obviously, it's not a great, relationship, but still that would be really heartbreaking. And then, of course, my niece isn't aware. When I read it, I just saw 30 years of history between me and my mom, my sister who's 8 years younger than me, and my mom, and then my sister's relationship with her daughter, and now how this is all playing back. But none of it, like that whole statement, was not based around any truth. It's not really based around any truth. It's all based around this 30 years of illusion that's gone on. And so, you just let that, and it's really not serving anybody. Or do you say something, right? So you have these situations. So I chose in that moment to acknowledge my niece and my mother's relationship. And I wrote something along the lines of, it's really beautiful to see the relationship that the two of you have. Something along the lines of, it's really, really beautiful to see the relationship that the two of you have. Anyway, it wasn't really much more than that. I can't remember the rest of what I wrote, but something along those lines. And then under that, and then my niece came back on, and she was bitching again about her mother in that space. So, and then I said that I also had a great relationship with my grandmother, and that my grandmother was very special for me, and she's gone now, but she'll never be forgotten. We had a wonderful relationship too, and that things were different at the time because Mom had to work, I had to work. We've all had, I wanted to inject something about having perspective about that people have to work and they can't always be there for you. And Nana's in a position where she's retired, she can be there for you, and it's a really special relationship. So I wasn't trying to take anything away from what my niece was saying about her feelings, but rather trying to inject something in about having some more perspective that, there's a lot of other things going on in there, and hoping that it would just sort of maybe release that tension, because it was really about the pain of her feelings about her relationship with her own mother was the bottom line of it. And so anyway, then my mom saw that and my mom sent me a personal message saying that she didn't mean to be working so much when I was that age, and that but she didn't want to be on mother's allowance or whatever, something that she took it personally, what I had written about that, the scenarios are different, right? My mother took it personally. So then I had the opportunity to write back to my mom in the chat. This was like last night or something. And I said, I told my mom, I said, Mom, my point in responding at all was just to inject some more perspective into the situation so that we could ease that tension between my mom or my sister and her mother, and so that maybe she could see a little bit bigger perspective. And also I kind of wanted to acknowledge the truth, like the truth was not being acknowledged in there. So I just let my mom know that that was my intention. and that I didn't hold any kind of friction with her or about our relationship, that I had an amazing Christmas with her. And I hope to have many more Christmases like that, and that it was a beautiful experience. And, you know, I've done all my self-work on our relationship, and, you know, there's no friction there whatsoever. Something like this. Anyway, I can't remember all the exact words, but that's the gist of it. And my mom was able to, oh yes, and I said, and, you know, we don't have to take things so personally anymore. And, you know, my sister and her daughter don't have to take things so personally anymore, you know. And I think my mom really got that message in what we had exchanged. And so she just simply wrote back to me. She said, and I could tell the relief in it. And she just sort of said, and, you know, thank you for being you, and for seeing things the way you do, with some hearts and whatever. And it was over. So, you know, it's this huge, like, there was so much energy involved in that post and in all that history that was there. And, you know, I didn't have to say anything at all, and maybe shouldn't have said anything at all. But I moved from inspiration and I moved from, you know, there was an opportunity to maybe inject that little bit of space in there for a different perception or a different perspective, or for me things maybe a little differently, holding all that anger and taking it personally that her mother didn't love her, and, you know, all of that stuff. So, and it worked out. I mean, my niece, you know, she liked what was written in there. My mom had an opportunity to say something to me. We all got a little bit more connected in that situation. However, a lot of times it can go the opposite direction. But I think that, you know, just because, I don't know, I don't want to say it's because of me, but because of how healed I am, and how able I was to just be okay with whatever happened in all those different ways that could have gone, I knew that the highest intention would hold. I knew that it would hold, and it would just create a little space, and that's exactly what happened. And I feel like it was worth putting myself out there for. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Oh, wow, we've got some echo. I'm gonna mute you. Sorry. I'm gonna mute you for a second. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and I want to thank you for sharing that. Because, you know, this is really interesting, because, you know, this is what, you know, I feel like that we're really here to heal these relationships. To me, that is what it's about. It's about our relationships with everything. And Patrick, I think that you are here and able to share.
Can you hear me yet?
You can turn your volume up a little bit, and I'm going to mute so that you can talk directly with Sienna.
Yeah, can you hear me yet?
We can hear you, and I just love having a man here that wants to talk about shadow work.
I didn't know you guys could hear me yet.
Yeah, turn yourself up.
But we can hear.
Okay, good. Hi, Sienna.
Hi. I don't know whether to look at the rabbit or your.
I don't know what. Yeah,
They're both
Patrick.
frozen. That's okay.
No, Patrick, can you turn your volume up a little bit?
Yeah, I think my phone is still on.
No, that's way better now.
Okay, how do I get out?
You're perfect.
Oh, let me out. Quit.
Yeah, the picture keeps freezing, but then you were live for a minute when you were talking. That was perfect.
Okay, let's do this. I'm just going to shut down my phone totally.
Oh, yeah, your phone is probably what's creating the echo.
You're gone now. Okay, well, I think we've lost him temporarily.
Let's see. He turned his phone off. Oh, I think he must have been coming through on his phone. Okay, well, we'll just wait for him to come back then. So here, let's talk about this until we get Patrick back. You talk about how we need to synthesize the shadow fractures of ourselves that keep us stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would love for you to talk about that.
Well, they're literally soul fractures from soul shock. That's okay, Patrick. From different timelines. So we're literally like Humpty Dumpty, you know? We are in pieces, energetic pieces. And so it's a process of contacting that. Now, in shadow synthesis, we do things called the feeling states of animation. These are feeling states that I worked with Aisha Love, who is transitioned on the other side 14 years ago now, but they are absolutely brilliant exercises that open up the feeling channels. And a lot of what shadow synthesis is bringing the authentic energy of the self, of the soul, back into the body, because through all of this having to obey a false and corrupt system, we've developed cover personalities. So our throats can be very constricted, our voices can be phony balonies. We've had it all of our lives. The energetic expression is not really a frequency match for our authentic organic energy. And it's my intention to complete this time around. I don't know if I will have it all together to do that, but I'd like to. So I want all the real pieces of me back, and I want my expression to be in sync with what is real. And that's a process of multidimensional soul retrieval. And yeah, so you have to open up the feeling channels. You have to develop trust. And you have to do some shadow busting. You have to face the part of you that's inauthentic, and then find the pieces of ourselves where they really are. So, you know, it's great to just forget, or, you know, to be done with everything, to see through with our awareness and our hearts. But there's another huge journey to take, at least in the shadow synthesis work that I do, which is this authentic embodiment process. And that involves actually experientially contacting past lives, ancestral energies, subpersonalities, and becoming them, and then purifying them, and then reintegrating them. You know, there's a wonderful book on shadow by Richard Rudd called The Gene Keys. I recommend you all get it and have a look at it. His understanding of shadow is so much more than just healing our relationships, to be honest, because that is a part of it, certainly. But the bigger part of it is soul reclamation. And so the shadow is wrapped or strangling the gifts, our real authentic energetic embodied gifts. And then when we unwrap the shadow, face it, own it, and open that up, the gift surfaces. And as we embody our gift, our natural purpose, whatever you want to call that, more and more, then the seedies come online. And these are our higher spiritual capacities to embody our multidimensionality and to show up, developing character that is embodying values. Because one of the things that this whole construct of cruelty has overlaid is that we've lost our values as human beings. They're undervalued. You know, our icons are superficial, you know, false, demonically possessed, often movie stars, rock stars, sports stars. You know, we've been conditioned out of understanding what real value is in evolving our character so that we can stand with source and with the planet in with our capacities opened up, with our authentic soul fractures reintegrated. It's a process of, in some ways, I don't really like this phrase, of initiation to get through. You cannot really have a deeply intimate relationship with source or the planet if you have a lot of falsity in your field, or a lot of selfishness or narcissism, or these different character quality. I don't know if I'm making any sense, because you know, the whole culture has been based on greed, me, selfish material consumption, money, and the whole idea of really divinely embodied beings. This is what the new paradigm is we all become, I don't like the saint word, I don't like the holy person word.
Integral. To me, it's integrity. Yeah. And to me, integrity just means being true to who you are. And when you were just sharing, I've said this a lot to people over the last few years, there's a difference in being self-centered and centered with self.
Right on.
Yeah. Huge difference. I want you, because I feel like this is so important. I'm going to, the book I'm going to make everyone.
The Gene Keys.
I'm sorry.
The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. It's huge. This man got a family inheritance and spent 10 years channeling this. Some of it I don't agree with because of the channel. However, a great mass of this, it's a real much broader spectrum look at shadow than the normal thing we're talking about for shadow. And it's way more interesting to me personally because it is birthing the new human. I mean, we are at a point where because of our Drake and reptilian DNA and all the trauma-based mind control, the distortions and the generational breakdown of human capacity, that we're being called by the planet to birth a new, the next level of human. Now, some people call it human sacredness, human spiritu. It's literally a process of bringing these soul fractures back in all the aspects and aligning our integrity really and reconnecting with source and Gaia. And so there's a death. It is more like a metamorphosis where we cocoon. Maybe that's what you're doing these days, where you need time out for yourself, and where you know, the butterfly, the transformed. It's a new version of the human species that those of us who are being called to do it are creating the template, and we're creating the possibility for all of humanity by simply embodying it. But it has to be authentic embodiment. We can't over jump pieces. So that's part of, I think, what my horrible divine capability is I'm a shadow buster, where in my groups and it really is Gaia informed. I can see where a person is still hiding, bullshitting. You know, we can get a piece and no, we're there, we made it, we're so perfect, and we're, you know, and no, there's another piece. But see, our shadows hide in our blind spots. Let me say that again. Shadows hide in your blind spots. It's very hard to do the inner work all by ourselves and not overjump some significant soul retrievals that are. And also, let us not forget that the ego will fight to the death, its death, to maintain its position at the helm. The ego doesn't go gently into the night. And it's clever. and it's Archon and Draco informed. So it's a spiritual warriorship. I don't like the warrior word. It's a spiritual dance to keep, and I don't care how good. I mean, I'm really good at this with other people, but frankly, I needed a mentor last year to point out something that was huge and I was clueless about. And with her great mentorship, I was able to move something that I hadn't seen at all. So this is just how it's cleverly engineered, that the shadow does hide and the ego fights till the death to maintain its status quo.
Okay. Awesome. There's something I want to go to, but we've got Patrick here, and if he can talk, I want to give him the floor.
Okay, yes.
You guys can't hear me now, right?
Yes, very well.
Fantastic. What did you want me to say?
What do you want to say?
Well, I got so tangled up in all the technology stuff, so I missed out on part of those conversations, and I know she had a
Do you want to
question.
just take a minute to ground and recenter and breathe and feel what you would like to share? And it can be from like a half hour ago. We don't care. There was something that really resonated with you in the conversation, which is why Patricia wanted you to come on.
It was about family. When Christine was talking about family, that really triggered something in you that you wanted to share.
Yeah, it was. I'm not quite sure, but I kind of resonated with that because there was going through the holidays, really going through it, realizing that I don't see my family and I don't connect with them. But I did reach out to my brother, who's a year older, and it was so strange to talk to him and realize the world that he comes from isn't the same one as mine, and which is obvious. But he is under the impression that because we were raised in the same household, we should technically have the same experience. And so, because our lives went different, and I knew at a very young age, mine was a spiritual path. That was all the money and the business and the power and the ego stuff really just never resonated with me at all. I'm sure parts of me really liked it and wanted to be successful and all that, but deep down I knew that this was going to be a culmination of, whether I knew it or not at the time, all my lives coming together, all the fragments. And in that, it's growing up, I grew up and in that process developed PTSD. And so I was trying to just have a conversation and open my brother up to that, the idea that some of the things that have happened, some of the things that I've done, were not necessarily triggered out of malice or done out of any forethought, really. Just reaction, because of when anybody gets injured emotionally or rocked, they're going to be perceiving differently. They're coming from a position of somebody that's just been in a car accident, virtually. So they're not seeing the world as it really is. They're coming from a reactionary standpoint. And at a certain point, I just, my brother said, that has nothing to do with it. You need to grow up, and it was like, whoa, ouch.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Right there? Okay. It's important to realize that some people are contracted to the artificial construct, and when we cut a deal with the construct, or all the entities and energies and archons and dracos and ancestors and everything there that are their minions of enforcement, the contract is, okay, you can have me, but I now I feel safe. Now I belong. Now I don't have to worry. Now I don't have to face my shadow, whatever it is. Now I don't have to feel my pain, huge one. And we do this unconsciously, But then, it's just like the Matrix movie. Bill Smith is living in us as us. And that's our status quo. That's where we call home. And the people who are awakening and breaking free, we are a threat to the construct and to the people who are attached. And they will fight to maintain the system, but they don't know what they're doing. Now, it is better to get to 0 point and with love and kindness, speak your truth and do it, get to the place where it doesn't hurt us. Sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes we're going through things, it's too raw and people are too brutal and cruel, and we need to distance ourselves. It's different for everyone and different at different points in the evolution. But I just wanted to bring up the piece that people will defend the construct to the death, and they will hurt anyone, and they don't know they're hurting you because they've desensitized themselves in order to endure the cruelty of this, of the imposition. And they don't know they're doing that. And, it isn't, they don't know they're doing it at all, if that makes any sense. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. I mean, I'm not here to convince you not to feel the hurt, but
Right.
with understanding, because I do that now. I mean, I go into place, I can feel the construct in people. It's like, you there, me here. And the little by little, when there's a door open and people are asking and inviting us, and these are the people I hang with. I'm fairly alienated from a lot of people in my world, and that's sad. And I've had to come to terms with it. Like, they're not there yet. I'm not going to go, keep getting in their face about this stuff. It's just not happening. I need to let go and understand why it is what it is. I don't know if that helps at all.
I agree with you there, Sienna. There's a time where, we just have to realize, and I don't know what everybody else does, but I know that this year culminated at the end with me realizing I can't change the world. What would I change it to? What would I save the world from? It doesn't need saving. I, however, on the other hand, realize I want to be here and not remove the shadow, but finally become at least not friends, but comfortable with it. I think that in coming here, we all come here, and maybe that was part of the drill was, if you're going to go through an experience separation from source, you can always come back. You just can't come back with your shadow. You've got to somehow integrate that thing to make it home. And, the shadow work is just amazing to me.
Patrick, I want you to go back to what you were saying about your interaction with your brother, because he made you feel a certain way then, I feel like, and you felt like you were not being heard, or that you didn't get to express it because I feel like you got shut down somehow.
Yeah, I just realized that I'm hearing an echo.
All right, let me mute. It may be me. Let me mute. Everyone else mute, because it's going back and forth from our mics. That's what it is.
Okay, I think it was really for the first time in my life to see my brother in that mindset that, okay, your problem has nothing to do with anything. We were raised in the same household. You're just weak and this and that, whatever labels he wanted to use. And it was the first time that I knew, after, walking through some severe fire and making a huge shift, that it was the first time in my life where I said, wow, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that, Adam. I wasn't quite clear on how you felt about it. Now I'm clear. I appreciate that. But, normally I would say something like that, and then in the back of my mind be thinking, whatever, you're an asshole, something like that. But for the first time, I just really went, my role here, or what I'm doing in my life has nothing to do with getting approval anymore. And in that sense, it was kind of like, that is growing up, when you don't need approval from anybody, especially family members. But, it's just realizing that we're far enough along that people, like when they were talking about the girls that had to leave the course you were in, and they just had to get up and leave. Realizing that this work, this shadow work, whatever you want to call it, getting down to truth and being okay with it. I mean, we all have to reach that point. And then the things we can change, we will change, we won't change. I've had so many people in my life that were somewhat like those that wanted to run out of the course you're in. They're like, oh, shadow work, I don't want to, this doesn't feel good. And I've realized that in my being so open and vulnerable, a lot of the times, if I even expose people like that in my life to that, immediate reaction for them is to attack and gaslight. You're crazy, you know, and things like that. And just realize, because I said to somebody, my room is having some health problems and all kinds of medications, and I said, well, no, that's the fundamental thing for anybody is their health. If you're malnourished, if you're not getting the nutrients, you can't process. You can't go in and really deal with shadow work, because that requires some reserve energy, and as you can get, even like just watching when we first started this, everything was going great, and when that video was going on, then some things that really resonated with me, and within seconds I felt myself get really tired and go, uh-oh, you know, and have a complete brain fog come over me. I used to react to it and get all frustrated, and then I was like, oh, hey, heads up.
You're breaking up really bad, but I can tell you that he was saying that when you were getting into some really intense parts of the discussion, that he started feeling extremely tired and like a brain fog came over him. Like, I guess there was some type of interference that was taking place when it was getting to where it was penetrating him.
Yes, a resistance, and the resistance can be interference and our egos and the parts of us, our subpersonalities and ancestors and contracts, is all the parts of us that are being threatened by this information are going to go, time to go to sleep now. That's enough. You know. But, and one thing I just wanted to also say in response, I don't know if we can get you back here, is I've had to accept that my soul family is you guys. And I created Rise to actually be able to hang with my soul family, because I was very alone, and I'm finding that we are scattered all over the globe, and we're in separation, and that, or in poverty, or in ill health, or all of the above, scarcity and isolation. And this is the way the control grid keeps our energy held down. So I agree with you. It's not the time to do shadow work when you're all alone, just getting beat up, and there's got to be some place of love, you know, and the first place is to learn it in yourself. But that takes even some time, to be honest. So I've had to accept that it's not my family this lifetime. It's not. And that's not their fault. Just like you said so beautifully, Christy, it's not their fault. That's just where they are. But I could, you know, argue till I was blue in the face and kick and scream and beg and just be beating them and me up forever. And it's just, it wouldn't serve anything. You know?
Yeah. I don't know if Patrick, if you want to try to come back on. If you don't, that's fine. I'll give you the option to unmute and try again if you'd like to.
Well, that's really funky. Also, I have been really tracking this with the Shadow Synthesis group that I'm working with now. When we're doing an energetic shift and it's a threat to the construct, AI freaks out. So something I learned from Anais, I put my hands on my computer and I say, because there's also a beneficent AI, it's not all bad. Say, I love you. You're here with me. I want you to go on this journey. I want you to feel the love and hold a space, because I really need you to be with me. So you might want to try that, Patrick, because part of what's happening is an energetic shift. And sometimes our devices have a hissy fit over that.
Just want to say
Yeah, I didn't even.
Sorry, I just want to say I saw Natalie had her hand raised, but I don't know. Did we put her on?
Thank you, Micah. What I'm doing is I'm going ahead and promote, but since it's getting later, I'm going to go ahead and promote everyone to a panelist so everybody can be on the screen at the same time.
Sounds good.
And this is going to be great for anyone that wants to share. What I really want to go into also is the feeling states. And I'm going to share something. If everybody will just stay on camera, but mute yourself for a minute while I share this, except for Sienna. Because I shared this with her years ago when I was doing the shadow work with her. And just recently, she not only heard my version, but she got to hear David share what happened. You know, feeling is not, feeling, especially when you've come from a place of trauma, is not fun. You kind of want to do anything you can to numb yourself and not feel. And I was really good most of my life at kind of showing my tough side and hiding the very loving, nurturing, emotional side. It was always there, but I just didn't want anyone to see it. And so David had been out of town, and I was doing the feeling states that I'm going to have Sienna go into. I'm not going to share what they are. I'm going to let her do that. I'm going to share my experience from them. So I was doing these exercises, and you do it, I will say this, you do it with a candle in front of a mirror. And I had put a mirror up in my office on the wall. I kept thinking, where can I'll try, Sienna, it was hilarious. I first started trying it in my bed, and I couldn't hold this mirror up, the candle and all. I was like, I can't do it. But I wanted to go into this dark space and try to create this, you know, like super cool environment and really bring all this stuff out. And I just gave up. So I put it on the wall, stood with my candle in front of the mirror, and I was doing these exercises. And all of a sudden, this very masculine being presented himself to me in the mirror. And it scared me because I really looked like I was a cross between a Neanderthal, ape, human. It was just this very masculine energy. Didn't look anything like me, I don't think, today. But I didn't know what to do with it, but I just kept communicating. I kept going through the process until, for me, it was like leaving. But when David came home, it was still in this transition of leaving. It wasn't like, okay, you do this and it's just like poof, gone. It wasn't like magic gone. But it was a process of integration, and this part of myself dying, I guess, is the best way that I could explain it. But when he came in, I could never forget the look on his face, because it looked like, who the hell are you? Because he came in and he just stared at me. And he goes, you look different. And I said, do I kind of look like an ape? And he said, kind of. And it freaked him out. It freaked me out. And I felt very uncomfortable because I didn't know what to do with it. You know, but it took a couple of days and this aspect of myself left. And when it did, I saw that one of the reasons that this being was a part of my current incarnation was because I had had so much trauma, and I was so gentle and kind and loving and nurturing. I needed someone to stand up for me. I needed that masculine energy to move me through situations that I couldn't have faced without him. So I was really appreciative for him being there and him being a part of my journey. And I was also glad to see him go once he was revealed. But it did. It opened up a softer side of me not opened up, it allowed me to express the softer side of me that I'd been hiding. So I just wanted to share that, because that was part of what I was going to say. I'll share something about myself. And it was mind blowing to actually witness. And like I said, David just recently shared that with Sienna, so she knew it wasn't my concoction, because he was completely freaked out by it. So talk about the feeling states and why they're so important, and what they are.
Well, the feeling states are extra. Oh, you need to mute. Okay. The feeling states are these amazing exercises that were gifted to Aisha by Gaia and Source and her own genius. And what they are is you're moving. It's like an emotional enlightenment intensive where you go through your entire psychological structure, healing the core wounds where you were train wrecked, or where you junked your life, or where your destiny ship on your path to purpose got wrecked and derailed, and you went off on another timeline that really isn't your organic timeline. So this is a course of correction, and your own higher self with Source and Gaia actually direct these exercises, believe it or not. So there's this, you know, you say these phrases, but you don't just say phrases. It's not like affirmations. You intend to have a direct experience of the truth, and you say them with feeling. And we do them in 50-minute slots. We do them with partners, and I help you design them. And what surfaces is your unconscious. It's just like pulling seaweed out of the ocean. It pulls up whatever is there, and people have the most extraordinary experiences, and they're self-help exercises. So they are there for you to empower yourself. I mean, I hold the space, and, you know, I help, and sometimes shadow bust by, you know, helping you see things maybe you didn't. But largely, it's your own healing with through Source, Gaia, and your own higher self, and it just flows as the feeling channels open. So that's an overview of the feeling.
And I will say this: is it okay for me just to reveal one exercise, because it's really significant?
Sure.
There was where, when you're looking in the mirror, you say, "I love myself. I hate myself. I love myself, and I hate myself." And you would do this. And I found it was so much easier to say I hate myself than it was to say I love myself. When I first started, it was like the saying I love myself was so uncomfortable.
Well, we are definitely not supposed to love ourselves. I mean, you're just so full of yourself, really, Patricia. Don't give yourself airs. You think you're so special. I mean, we are just conditioned to slam ourselves down and self-abuse. I mean, I really saw that in the UK. You know, everyone is saying they're sorry for everything. They open the door. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I mean, we are. Yeah, and this is like, you're supposed to just put yourself down, make yourself less than, say crappy things about yourself. This is socially acceptable behavior in a lot of realms, right? But to love yourself, we don't have any education about, I mean, unless you had very wonderful parents, and you know, that can occur, but normally our parents were put down and made to be slaves to the construct, and so it broke them. So they had a hard time loving. When you've given up your soul, given up your life, given up your spark, given up your genius, given up your magic, you know, and then you have to raise a kid, you know, they can dump, you know, first of all, they try to be possessive and own you, and then they dump your, I mean, it just generational abuse, which is the indoctrination back into the construct. The parents are supposed to beat you down until you cave, until your energy then can be used by the predator and by the patriarchy and in the slave system, and you're no longer a problem. Job done. And if your parents didn't do it, then your school is going to do it, right? The kids are going to be cruel, and they never seem to do anything about that. That's fine. The kids all have the pecking order and go for anybody who's sensitive or different or vulnerable or brilliant, or, you know, so and then you'd sit there in your mind, you know, learning lies, uh, and repeating rote. It shuts down your career. So then, you know, that shuts you down, and you sit there for what, 20 years, you know, to get a piece of paper so you can be a slave in the system of lies. So where do we learn self-love?
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, and yeah. Wow, you hit a lot there for me.
This just comes through me all. This is kind of my job. What can I say? Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah, I was always the kid. I was always the kid running through the schoolyard. Why are you chasing me? Why are you trying to beat me up? Rolling down hills, falling down, scuffing my knees.
Yeah.
I know that well.
Yeah, self-love can be learned.
Yeah.
And in baby steps, you know, we do this with gentleness. We do the way that this becomes not so overwhelming, or to re-traumatize ourselves as we surface these wounds, is we learn to be gentle. We learn to take it in bite-sized pieces. And actually your own higher self will release this information from your subconscious and your unconscious in proportions that you can deal with. And when we do the inner baby work, that's a whole big piece, of course, you know, because we go in and find our inner babies, which have separated off. That's one of the biggest fractals, and usually the inner baby's hiding there. It's, you know, with all of our feelings, wounds, hurts, shut up and obey. So we get fractured off, and you come in and go, oh, I need to love you so I can live a whole life. And it goes, well, fuck you. You know, who are you? You haven't been here my whole life. Now you're going to love me? Haven't, you know? So it's a process of building that trust with the inner baby, and then helping your inner baby to grow back up. So self-love isn't something that you learn in a weekend workshop, to be honest. I mean, there are parts of me that love myself. There's parts of me, the abuse has been over lifetimes and timelines. It's huge. It takes, this is why Shadow Synthesis is in two processes. We have the 6-week where we go over the material, we start to share and build trust and open up a bit, and just baby steps. You know, it's not like own your shadow right now. No, you don't have to. 6 weeks, we're just looking at this stuff. But then there's a 6-month process. And why is it so long? Twice a month that we do exercises, you know, through the week in pairs, all these feeling states, different things, because it takes time. It takes time, and we need to be kind and compassionate and gentle with ourselves so that these kind of wounds can melt little by little, and this wholeness and this love grows stronger. But after a lifetime, it takes a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many times that we, and I think I could, anyone that's here, you know, wants to face the shadow. That's why you're here. Once, or has faced the shadow. And, you know, I was just listening to some of the things that you were sharing, and I thought about how hard it is even to accept a compliment or accept someone, you know, giving you words of affirmation, because we're so hard on ourselves. You know, if somebody says, hey, Patricia, that's a pretty dress you have on, I'm like, oh, I got it for $12 at Kmart. I mean, that would be kind of the thing that you would do, because you just don't want to acknowledge anything about yourself that would, if someone gives you a compliment, you feel like you have to take it away. Like I couldn't really accept that.
Because the end of this imposition is getting your needs met, but you need to be real and be present and be embodied, be here to get your needs met.
Yeah.
And so if we, you know, if we're starving, we are just easy targets, sitting ducks for this construct, because then they try to give us all our false needs. Well, you can't get your real needs met, but we'll give you all this crap that's killing you. You need this stuff. You need all this stuff we're giving you, you know, but don't worry about it. And then we'll give you these phones, and you can stare in that, and we'll have endless entertainment. You don't ever have to get real with anybody. Don't worry. You know?
Wow.
And we're buying into it, and the children, teenagers are buying into it. Intimacy is going extinct. Wait, we can't hear you, Patricia, but I don't know why.
Because I muted myself. You can't see. I'm muted on my microphone.
Okay.
So, I want to do I really want to open it up for anyone that has questions for you right now or would like to share, because we've been going for a while, and I don't want people to have to, I don't want it to go so long that people have to leave. And then you can close, but Natalie had something that she wanted to share, so I definitely want to let her go. And then anyone that wants to share after Natalie, if you'll just communicate with Micah, and then she'll make sure that we know that you're good to go.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to share that I had a total wrong concept about the shadow at all, because I always thought that what I thought is bad, evil, dark, is bad, evil, dark. And then I realized that there has been my greatest gift, like Patricia, like you shared, this male principle. I faced that last year, and goodness, I'm so happy this warrior, because I realized how, Sienna, how you said you don't like this word, and I never liked this word, so it was really hard for me to accept this side of me. And now I'm so happy, because he brought me back as someone who has also been hardly abused. He brought me back the ability to set boundaries, to say no, and he brought me my strengths back to me. So this dark figure has brought much light into my life. And also, that's funny, lately I met someone who I remembered past lives where we have both been warriors. And I realized how much camaraderie there has been at that lifetime. So that is where I realized how much friendships guys have sometimes with each other, even while they go to war. So we have these ideas, and that is the separation in itself, what is good or what is bad. And on the other hand, I have still a lot of people around me from the love and light community where I hang around a lot, but there is much shadow in that, as it's often just a tool to feel better about ourselves, by I'm this enlightened being and you are you're just not so evolved. And so where is light and where is shadow? That is in itself, it's already the separation that is causing all of these twisted games we play with each other. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Beautifully said, Natalie. Beautifully said. Yeah. The spiritual fascism of the New Cage community is really denying the real journey we need to take, the real spiritual journey, which takes a lot more courage than just being in love and light, being eternal little children. And it's not going to get us where we need to go, because all this stuff is in our face, both internally and externally, going like Gaia is pushing it in our face. She's letting a lot of this play out because we need to face it. It's like by our silence, we are permissioning everything that's happening. That the power controllers are a teeny tiny little percentage. It is the order followers. It's each one of us that is keeping this whole thing going, and we're not going to go there by just self-indulging in what feels good. What we think feels good. To me, living like from here up, like, and being love and light, and it doesn't feel good to me, that. But because it's so much is in denial. And yes, the warrior can have great strength, but war
No.
It's not a meme because it's like the Richard Rudd material. You get the shadow of this conflict, you open it up, and you get the gift of boundaries, of self-empowerment, of the strength to stand in your truth and be of value and do no harm. And it's a fierce stance, but it's not a war. It is not a war stance.
Yeah.
But you have to unpack the warrior to get to the strength, which is exactly what you have done.
And I totally agree when it comes about the silence. Lately, I wrote an article saying the worst thing about abuse have not been the abusers, have been all the others that enabled it. And abuse has so many levels. It happens every day, everywhere. And it's always the ones not looking there, staying silent. And I'm still doing this sometimes myself because I feel some fights are not worth it, because when people have decided to not see, not listen, not talk, sometimes it doesn't make any sense to bring truth there when it's not valued at all. So how do you see that?
I want to say, so I have to say this before I forget, because I'll forget. The facade of love and light is what's dangerous, is what's detrimental. It's not, we are love and light. That is our core. That is our wholeness. So it's not when people are, oh, I'm love and light, I'm love and light. They're in a dualistic reality at this moment. And so this is a facade. And that's where they're, again, not embracing the shadow self. They're repressing it. And then also, Natalie, I wanted to say with you, 100%, I agree with you, because one of the things that really, once I started doing my healing work, I wasn't as upset or angry with the people that were abusing me as I was with the people that knew what was going on and weren't doing anything to step in and get involved. So that really, but even though I still took ownership for my own healing, I actually had to confront my stepdad one time and say, you, instead of stopping my mom from ripping hair out of my head every day, when you guys were going through your divorce, you thought you were doing something grand by coming to me with this. He had this huge plastic bag of all the hair that she had pulled out of my head that he was collecting for a court case, versus stopping her from pulling the hair out of my head. So you think about that.
Wow.
And at the time as a kid, I didn't know what to do with it. But then as a woman, as a grown woman, I was like, what the hell? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So yes, I do agree with you on what you're sharing. And that happens in the school system. It happens with the government, it happens with your siblings, your parents and grandparents, and, all these people around, aunts, uncles, cousins, it doesn't matter. People see it, they know what's going on, and they don't even want to deal with it. So that's a very valid point. And Beth also would like to share something. So you just unmute and I'll be quiet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, good. This is a real journey, and there's nothing, people say, oh, it's pretty, and yeah, you discover yourself, but the bravery that you got to have to go through this, heads off to everyone. I mean, hats off. It's not easy. It is not easy, and it's not for the weak-hearted, and it's not for the people that don't want to see. There are times I find myself, I think, oh, I've gotten to that level. Things are getting better. I can see clear. Something else comes up. So another trigger, another layer. And sometimes it shakes me to my core. Sometimes I laugh at myself. Sometimes I embrace that part of myself that I thought was never there or lost. So it's all of these things, relationships with family members. And what is family? I don't know. Not sure about that. Yeah, right here. Familia. So and Patricia knows my journey. I have a very dysfunctional family, and it's dysfunctional is not the word. There's molestation involved. There's just a lot of different things involved. And for me, that journey with them, it was like when I started that journey, I woke up, the first thing I thought is I was so angry because I walked around in a haze for years and I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't even know that that was abusive. And it manifested in, abscessed teeth and they're physical manifestations. I started getting sick. So I think recognizing, after I got over the anger, and there's still some anger there, but after I got over that initial shock to what the hell, where was I living? It was a shock. Did I actually grow up in an abusive family? Because if you're brought up in that, that's all you know. Yeah. That's what you know. You know something's wrong, but then that program that comes in, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you don't know better. Oh, it's your imagination. I think we live in a society where that's where a lot of people are stuck. We're taught it's your imagination. Oh, you didn't get that. Oh, no. You don't know what you're talking about. I have a daughter that was molested at the age of 3 by my sister's husband. And everybody in my family told me that, oh, she was just making it up. She didn't understand. She, misunderstood. And so then, and then I was made to be the bad guy. So we live in a reality of a lot of this stuff where we think, okay, did I misunderstand that? And a lot of times people can't even understand what they don't understand or where they've been. So I really applaud each and every one of you that are attempting to make, that journey. Because it's not an easy one. And it doesn't stop. As soon as I think I've just uncovered this, something else comes up. Something else where I'd be like, I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that's why the communication, to me, the most healing thing we do is communication. And shadow work is very much about communication. It's communication with one another. It's supporting one another. It's also communication with yourself on levels that you normally wouldn't even anticipate going to. So yeah, it's a tough process, but it's the most liberating process that you can go to, because as you go through this part of yourself and acknowledge this and own it and heal it, you also are able to create closure and empowerment. Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. That was very real and transparent and vulnerable for you to share that. So I really appreciate that, Beth. That's beautiful. There's another piece of this, that shadow work is, it does end, to be honest. And the way we've been working at Rise, people go through the shadow work, the 6 weeks, and the 6 months. And then they're going to break their contract with the artificial construct, which is a document on Anais Salas, one of Rise's mentors, and her website is livinglessonslibrary.com. And there is a document there that is called the written remedy, which is it's affidavit to exit the 3D construct of separation. Okay, you're not going to be able to do that if you haven't done your shadow work. All this needs to be resolved. You need to be done with all of it, because whatever part you're still attached or still denying is going to sabotage it. Okay, so shadow work is the first piece. But I want to lay this out because I find this very exciting. The second part is the affidavit, and she also has a course in the templates that are tying us to the construct. And literally a year ago, she popped out of the construct and has been living in 5D non-dual reality for the last year. And other people, advanced students who've done their shadow work, have been popping out too. And so I think that's pretty exciting. It wouldn't be for everybody, but literally it's not just about, you know, getting nice relationships and getting yourself all sorted in the construct. If it is that for you, that's fine. But I'm really intrigued by the possibility of exiting the construct while we're embodied here. Because why? Most of us who've been with Rise and George and Eve Lorgan and Gennard Gunther and all of the alternative multidimensional woo-woo community, we've been looking at the imposition, the interference, the slave state, the prison planet, all the pieces of it, and it's all about escape the matrix, you know. And this is a very female, and I am not polarizing against the male at all, but I feel that the female heart or the feminine side needs to be reintegrated after all these years of patriarchy, and that it's coming from a mature woman of color who is Black, who is incredible, and that it's coming right from Gaia. I'm working directly with Gaia. She's got remedies coming out to actually create the frequency to no longer engage. And what's happening is, and then there's also her co-creative masterclass, which teaches you how to co-create your reality with Gaia, rather than doing all the secret stuff where you're manifesting with your mind, and it's along the old Black magician timelines of mind manifestation to create the world you want and the life you want, da 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 da. So I think that all of these together form an education that literally has the potential not just to heal these core wounds and feel better about ourselves and integrate this, but literally complete and live in this other dimension, and therefore hold that frequency for humanity as it's transitioning as a choice and an option. And what's really at stake, well, we're either going to go on this extinction timeline that the Dracos are locking down with the AI and the 5G smart grid and all of the collapse and the calamity and the horror, or we're going to wake up to that we're co-creators we are co-creating the outcome with the planet, or we're not. But we got to clean up all the shadow piece to even be on a level playing where we can do that. But I just wanted to put the whole thing out there. Because it's a wonderful thing.
Well, and I agree with that. I feel like it's kind of like what you're saying is very much in alignment with transcending the matrix. Really, you know, because we can move interdimensionally. We don't have to conform and be a part of the system. We can maneuver and navigate our way.
And everything they're throwing at us, we can transmute when we've embodied enough of our heart core essence, our real charge, and we're connected back with Source and the planet. We don't have to fear these impositions. You know, they've got all these weapons. I'm a targeted individual. You know, I'm not there where can throw this off, you know, with a giggle, but I'm working on it. But and also, you know, at the point of when we make our transition, if we want to exit the matrix on the other side and really choose our own destiny path, all parts are going to have to be present. We're going to have enough embodied, authentic charge and be awake and aware in a 0 point and have that mastery to be able to be sovereign, because this is about sovereignty. This is about soul sovereignty. And this is the female path of soul sovereignty out, is this energetic process. So shadow work is really the beginning.
Yeah, and one of the things that you just said right then, it reminded me of something that I've been saying for quite a while. And it's, when we look at our own personal exit of the matrix and our going home, our leaving this planet, leaving this universe, we have all this fear of darkness and of aloneness, and that aloneness is actually a part of our sovereignty. And so for me, it's like one of the things that I recognize is when my time comes and I'm going through that transition, I will cross through the void. I will move through the void to go to center point, but I'll have to be willing to be one-on-one with myself in the darkness, no matter what's being presented around me that's going to try to scare me or get me to not want to make this transition alone. And I'm going to have to be brave enough, and I'm going to have to be fully equipped to be able to move through that process. So that's all about what I've chosen to do, the inner work that I've chosen to do in that process. And so I can really, what you're sharing there, I really get that completely 100%.
Because a lot of shadow work, to be honest, or inner work, is making people happier, healthier in the construct. Okay, which is fine. I don't make that judgment. I don't try to impose my reality, but I like to open up the possibilities. I don't want to just fix myself to be better in the slave system, personally. And unless we break out of the construct, that's all we're doing with shadow work. Sorry, but that's it. I just want to say that.
No, you're right. You're exactly right on. So that's that, and I agree with you, because that is it. Like, I know this is my last rodeo. This is it. I'm done. And so this incarnation has been like one hell of a ride. I feel like I'm 1,000 years old, not 51 years old, because so much was lumped into this one lifetime because it was so important. The relationships for me, when I talk about that, it's important because I know these relationships that I'm having right now are really important and a part of that process. But my ultimate goal is completion. It's not to be just happy in this reality.
I didn't mean to minimalize relationships.
Yeah.
But a lot of the programming is you do growth work to be happier, to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, to make money, to get your health back. These are all wonderful goals. And everything's relationship. And we're not in relationship until we have actually got ourselves back into authentic embodiment. We're not in relationship. We are in an artificial construct of non-reality. And we were programmed to avoid reality at all costs from our primary imprint, from our infancy. So you can look at, are you looking at this, like what's going on in the world? Aren't you like, what circus did I sign up for? This is insanity. This is so what are these people? What? Like all day long. And it's getting more extreme because Gaia is letting it play out. It's like, hello, anybody want to own a shadow here?
Yeah. So if anyone has anything that they would like to add or share, I'm going to open it up for that. And then after that, I'm going to let Sienna close, but I want to give everyone an opportunity to ask a question or share anything they'd like to before I do that.
I'll share. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, hi, Beth. Just want to actually was going to piggyback a little bit off of what Beth shared. I'm sure people like myself watching the webinar and people watch in the future, they share the experience that I've had where working on shadows, limitations, limiting beliefs can be at times or feel at times like an arduous journey, and something that even when in the process of working through that crap, you don't want to face it. It feels like it's insurmountable. You feel alone. You feel like it's much easier to go bliss out or go back to one of your addictions or comfort zones. So I would tell anyone now in the future, if you're going through that, it is okay. Give yourself the space to feel so you can heal, give yourself the space to be, give yourself the space to be compassionate with yourself. Even if you don't like what's coming up, you don't have to like it. But when you give yourself the space for your shadow or the dark self to be revealed, it has something to show you that can actually help you be even beyond what you ever thought that you could be in the present moment. It's just having the courage, the willingness to welcome up that aspect of yourself, the limited beliefs and things that you don't want to see, because on some level, at least I found, they want to show up. They actually maybe in some way want to help you see who you are. And so, yeah, if you are going through a tough time, I've been through tough times. Sure, all of us have been through tough times. I'm just done. I don't want to do this. I'm going to go back to my comfort zone. It's okay. You know, just give yourself space, give yourself time, be compassionate. It's so important. You know, the self-love and all the wonderful things that we want to embody does come. I found that, but when you make space for that which you don't really like, it's like you make space, you become friends, if you want to call it that. And then it's amazing how much room you have to truly love yourself. It's not just a conscious thought, it's a true level of beingness that was always there. And now it's present. All the abundance, all the prosperity, everything that you had always been told was true about you, you actually know to be the truth. So stay the course. You know, we're all here, present, past, future. You know, we're practically the ancestors, so who knows who's going to see this down the line, who we may be helping and serving here, right? So
yeah,
it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's so funny. Thank you for sharing, Micah. And it's so funny. I always say, like, even if we go through some major planetary disaster, I always go back to like the Terminator, where somebody finds a recording and they're like, look, this is a message from the future to the future. And I always say, you know, look, whatever we're creating now, you know, yes, it's affected all of us in the moment, but we have no clue how much we're affecting people that hear this after the fact. People that really did get so embedded into AI that forgot who they are, that forgot the organic, that are so caught up in the synthetic, and they're looking for the human aspect. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're bringing to the table, and that's what we're offering to humanity.
Right on.
Yeah.
We have 10 years to get our shit straight and to get this AI thing so that the AI serves us in a co-creative, beneficent way, just like cryptos can serve us. But that's not the agenda, but that is the possibility. But you got to put your hands on your computer. I learned this from Anais. And, you know, love your computer time. I mean, have a relationship with AI. Have a relationship with your inner Draco. That's another thing that she's got on Rise. I don't like to take her information. I'm so inspired by all of this. Sometimes I just talk about it. But it's a, you know, we do have a very interesting 10-year window here to determine the outcome of this planet. It has not been, you know, oh, it's a divine plan, it's all perfect, we just came here to learn, it's a schoolhouse, everything's, our blueprint is just there. Our blueprint is there. But the whole thing, what she's doing is like, wake the fuck up. You are as powerful as me. I'm a sister with Gaia. She wants my co-creative capacities, online work in this. You know, we're going to do a summit soon at Rise. We were going to call it the What the Fuck is AI Summit, but that kind of, a few of the people, it felt like they couldn't go there. So we're struggling for a name. We're going to Max Egan. I'm going to try to get George on there. You know, we're going to do like, let's look at this thing. This is huge. We're being so challenged. People are dying of brain cancer, children, kids. It's horrific. And it's just rolling out all over. And, you know, we've got to stand up to, we have to have the fortitude. We have to be embodied enough to be in that place, what Christine's talking about, where I ain't taking this personally, but I'm going to open my mouth. It's not going to be as a warrior polarizing, fuck you, get this thing off my house. Like, no, it's like, I understand this is your job, but I refuse. You know, 0 point, neutral, but strong. We have a huge planetary transformation to become solutionaries in. this is an incredible, it's not all about just me completing, you know. I mean, I don't think I'm going to complete if I see what needs to do and I decide to just live in the jungle, which I've been doing for 9 years. But anyway, she's calling us to step up, isn't she? She's calling us to step into our empowerment, but using power in the right way, with love, with, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so here's what I would like to have you close with, if you're okay with that. We've talked about the feeling states. We've talked about what created the shadow self. We've talked about the processes that we're going to go through. And one of the things that you have talked about is how to make the unconscious and subconscious conscious. So I'd like you to close with that. And then also, what does a fully integrated self look, feel, and act like?
Well, that's a very individual matter. I get, you know, I mean, I don't know what your individual, fully integrated self is going to look like, because that is your unique creation, because we are individual selves. There is no cookie cutter blueprint for that. But let's see, what was the first thing that you said?
How to make the unconscious and subconscious conscious.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you need to make the commitment to take the journey. And then, I mean, we go through in shadow synthesis a lot of different processes to do that. We do the inner dialogue work, where you sit in the hot seat and you become the different aspects of yourself and integrate those, the judger, the perfectionist, the pusher. We work with different shadow selves. There's different subpersonalities that need to, we take you into internal processes to heal the inner baby. That's a whole process that takes months, where you go in to experience your inner child. And what, you know, some of you have done this, and you help her grow up, and you help, but there's not just an inner baby, there's the inner little ones. Like there's the one that got train wrecked in the schoolyard. She was older, but something happened to her where she got frozen in time. Yeah, so we bring them all back, and the first thing we do is we mind map the ego, because remember, all the shadow work is healing your ego, which is the operating system for the system of separation. It's keeping you in separation through all of these wounds, through the tear, through the walls we build, through the isolation we create for ourselves, through giving our energy to the construct and the entities, through obeying a system of lies that is hurting people, where we do not stand up. All of this. So we take shadow synthesis. We start with the 6 weeks. And, you know, to be honest, doing this, I find doing this in a group of like-minded hearted souls is great, but it still takes time to build trust. You don't just pop in and go, okay, you know, share your deepest wound with this group. You know, you're going to go, I don't think so. Or even if you want to, you're not. So it takes time. So the 6 weeks is where, you know, we're just being with each other, looking at all the modules. We're doing enlightenment intensive exercises, which is where we sit with each other and we say, tell me who you are, or tell me what isn't alive in you. So you constantly are having buddies and partners to work your stuff, so you don't have to do it all alone. Okay. But I mean, I have to set the guidelines so this doesn't become codependence, so that you're not dumping your stuff. So you're not so you don't take on people's stuff. So you don't outsource your needs for this. So we have to create the context of what is healthy, sovereign relating. So we all, you know, the last time we started with 17 people, and the ones that really went on to do the 6 months, that was 7 people, because the other people thought it was interesting, but wasn't their time to do it. So then we take 6 months. We meet twice a week, but we work during the week. So, and the private sessions, I try to bring down the price exponentially for private sessions of people who are in shadow synthesis. It's a sliding scale of $50 to $80, and you know, so that you can do a series of private sessions when you get stuck. You're working with other people. You're in the group where everybody is working their stuff with each other. And so we're using many different modalities to do this. You're doing journaling, you're doing mind mapping, you're working these exercises privately and in community. And you have And then we have a Facebook group. So people, you know, as they go through the feeling states, they're sharing all of that. So you're now in a sisterhood, in a brotherhood, and you've got a time frame where you can relax and allow the deeper layers to surface. So also, I'm starting this by offering a 30-minute free chat, because maybe it's a fit for you, maybe it's not. You'd really like to talk to me privately before you make the commitment. So that's the first thing. It's on my website. It's all Shadow Synthesis, where you have options. The 30-minute chat, the 6 week. You got to take Shadow Synthesis 1, the first 6 weeks before you get invited into the deep inner work. Because also I need to really assess who people are. I need to build trust with people. We need to build trust with each other. You know, it's very, I try to hold the space with as much integrity and transparency. So I don't have you working with each other until I really get a sense of who everybody is. So it's kind of baby steps over a period of time. The difference about this is it's community-based. It's a tribal adventure. And I share my wisdom, but I encourage you to share yours, so that as we move through it, you know, somebody shares something and I'll go, Beth, you can see what's going on here. I encourage your own intuition to activate, your own love, your own feedback with one another. So we really are a sisterhood, brotherhood, and everybody's wisdom is accessed. So at the end of it, it's not you know, or hopefully never it's the Sienna show. It's our show. It's our sovereignty. We all have enormous gifts. We have enormous intuition. So again, I try to get out of the way and create experiential places for you to process your stuff and emerge and have your own voice, your own expression. Then I'm going to go on. We're going to do live retreats. And there's also going to be apprenticeship, where if you're ready to move into your own work, and it's not going to be cookie cutter, do Shadow Synthesis Sienna's way. Maybe you've already have a practice, but you want to incorporate some of these things. I'm going to license people. Very minimal cost involved. Well, the main thing is I want them to be trained. I want this, and Gaia wants this to go viral all over the world as a grassroots community effort where we're all just holding space for each other. None of this was ever meant to be Sienna becomes a millionaire, and you know what I mean? The old paradigm, she's the authority, we're the stupid children. Like, no, we're way advanced for that now. So that's
Yeah, what I'll do for anyone that's, well, what I'm going to do when we're with the recording is when I share it on my website and on YouTube, I'm going to put all that information there so that anyone that's interested can go take a look at it, and they'll communicate with you directly, Sienna. And one of the things that, if everyone is agreeable, I would like to share this video with each person personally. So if you're okay with us emailing this to you, I'd like to do that. And anywhere that you'd like to share it, you know, you're welcome to do so. I told Sienna I'm going to do the same thing with her, and just let her share it with whatever opening she would like to, because, you know, I just feel like, you know, when you start to do the shadow work, it's very personal, and it is a challenge, and you may have questions and things that you want to, you know, communicate with Sienna about, or share with other people that you know that even would like to do shadow work, or that you know that they're at that point where this is something that would be of interest to them, then we can all share this and get this information out. I feel like that would be really beneficial, because that's what having these conversations for me is about. It's about getting into the heart of the matter and bringing out, you know, the best version, the truest version, the most organic, authentic version of who we are, beyond the distorted ego, beyond all of the trauma, beyond everything that's not who we are, but remembering who we are and empowering ourselves to be the sovereign beings that we are. You know? Yeah. All right. This has been such a beautiful discussion. I appreciate everyone's input. Thank you all for being brave enough to share. And I know that it's not always easy to communicate in a group setting. And this is what we're going to do. This is what 2018 is going to be. There's going to be more group discussions like this where we all have a voice and we all get to share and really just, support one another in the process in this journey. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you. Group.
Yeah, it was awesome. And thank you, Sienna. And like I said, I'll share everything on YouTube, on the website, and everyone will be able to get a copy of the webinar.
And I just want you to know, I'm kind of a crazy wild woman. I'm very accessible. I really put my heart and soul in this. If you want the 30-minute free chat, or you want to reach out to me, you want to talk to me, I'm the same way. I mean, every day I'm communicating with all these ladies. It's like it's like a full-on commitment. It's not like, oh, the hour is over, I'll see you next week. It's, I don't know, maybe that's insane, but it's just not. We become family, and we got to be there because I think it's to make up for that, the separation that we've all endured. Yeah. That is it for real? Is this woman bullshitting me? Is she's in it for the money? Is she just, no, we got to learn. If we're going to come out of separation, then we're out of separation. It's a big commitment. It's a lot more work this way, but it allows our souls to live and connect and share. And you don't have to feel like, oh, well, I shouldn't really bother her. Like I answer every email that comes to me. I try to really be there for this process.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.